Hello, good evening, and welcome to Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television. Iron Port is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, GUEL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, MPS, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. The show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, GPHA, and our media partner on this journey of a lifetime is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. Now, if you want to have a grasp of all that transpired on the show tonight, make a date and grab a Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to see all that happened here on the show. Indeed, we are streaming live on our social media pages. On Facebook, we are live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Still on Facebook, we are live at Port of Tema. And on YouTube, we are streaming live at Iron Port Ghana. Iron Port Ghana. We shall be getting interactive with you, and so all you have to do is send us your messages and comments via our dedicated WhatsApp line, which is 0559 019 177. 0559 019 177. And when the time is ripe and I pick signals from the production team, we shall activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. My name is Kennedy Mona. We are going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue with the show. Please stay with us.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really? Okay, I come.
Shut up!
Mame, Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Ron 95.
Well up with Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from GUEL.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey, go for a
Choose Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for GUEL Super XP Ron 95. GUEL, good energy. GUEL is good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah, our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, streetlights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance. Oh, Ajima, tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, so welcome back. We are now going to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. And indeed, in the course of the week, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, had cause to complain about some alleged harassment by the Ghana Revenue Authority, but the GRA has responded. We have details of that particular story for you. Plus the fact that some 50 customs officers, that's preventive officers of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, also underwent training in counter-terrorism. We have that story as well. And then the International Labour Organization and Ghana Maritime Authority are also collaborating to ensure improved living and working conditions for Ghanaians working on fishing vessels in our waters. Let's take a look at these stories and more.
The Ghana Union of Traders Association has condemned the harassment of its members by officials of the Ghana Revenue Authority. In a press conference held in Accra, the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, claimed that the GRA has established a task force to intercept goods and cargoes after they have been cleared, and this has become unbearable. He said cargoes bound for the Ashanti region are mostly affected by this activity. According to the GUTA president, this act is not a good look for the customs systems deployed at the country's ports and go a long way to derail trade facilitation.
It could be recalled that a few days ago, our Ashanti region branch issued a press conference on this constant harassment and intimidation of traders in the region by GRE officers after their cargoes have passed through the due clearing processes at the port of Tema and release them to them. The GRA cannot assign any cogent reason for the harassment of the traders in the Ashanti region.
The Ghana Union of Traders Association said it will no longer tolerate the interception of cargoes after they have left the port and other activities that frustrate the business climate in Ghana.
With regard to the VAT invigilation, we detest the Rambo-style manner of infiltration and invasion of our privacy in our business premises by the GRA.
In a related development, the Ghana Revenue Authority has issued a swift response to narratives circulating in the media space from members of the Ghana Union of Traders Association and Traders Advocacy Group Ghana. These narratives include the alleged harassment and extortion by GRA tax forces, as well as frequent arrest of goods by customs monitoring tax forces, eventually leading to payment of heavy penalties by traders. In a press release, the management of GRA provided some clarification on the subject. The authority indicated that the various lawful compliance and enforcement measures, such as the VAT invigilation exercise, has led to significant additional revenue gains in addition to checking non-compliant taxpayers. Additionally, the GRA says the Customs Monitoring Task Forces has intercepted many smuggling attempts and short collections, leading to added revenue gains. The Revenue Authority therefore urged the GUTA executives to impress upon their members to be compliant, as the GRA is continuously working to engage them to resolve their issues. The authority also urged the trading public to not hesitate to report any misconduct on the part of GRA officials during these exercises on number 0800 900 110. The GRA has assured that it will continue to ensure that human involvement in revenue mobilization is reduced, while improving on automation of systems to eliminate the use of discretion and thereby assist taxpayers to comply. 46 men and 4 women from the Preventive Unit of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority have successfully passed out from a 3-week intensive counter-terrorism training program at the 64 Infantry Regiment Training School in Esutrare. This takes the total number of preventive officers who have undergone this training to 250 since 2017, when the program was initiated. The officers underwent training in military drills weapons training, armed combat, among others, all towards the mandate of detecting, deterring, and disruption of illegal movements of goods, funds, and individuals that may be used to support acts of terror across the country's borders. Chief Revenue Officer in charge of the Preventive Unit at Customs, Kenneth Baye, highlighted the significance of such training programs in service of the fight against the ever-present threat of terrorism.
We are the frontline agency as far as the borders are concerned. And this training will really equip us to play a role in stopping any threats at this, before they become an event. It is also important because the training equips you. Training is the best tool that can help us to effectively stop or interdict threats of terrorism.
The commander for the Customs Counter-Terrorism Unit, Benjamin Bekai, said his outfit will continue to carry out its special mandate.
You know, as a customs division, we have three-pronged mandate to collect revenue, to protect the public safety, and then to facilitate legitimate trade. So my unit, it's a specialized unit that is supposed to detect, deter, and disrupt illegal flow of goods and funds that will be used to facilitate terrorism in Ghana.
Deputy Director of the National Counter-Terrorism Center of the Ministry of National Security, Daniel Osei-Bonsu, said this program ties into government's objective of protecting Ghanaians.
This whole fight against violent extremism, radicalization and terrorism, we want to make it a non-kinetic affair. We don't want to weaponize it. That is why we are saying everybody must be part, every agency must be part. And that's the role national security is playing here.
The Ghana Maritime Authority, in collaboration with the International Labour Organization, has held a sensitization forum for fishing vessel owners and agents in a bid to improve the living and working conditions on board Ghanaian registered fishing vessels. The aim of the forum is also to raise awareness and educate fishing vessel owners and their associated stakeholders about the pressing need to enhance the living and working conditions of fishers on board Ghanaian registered fishing vessels. The Director Maritime Services Division of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Kwabna Boache Boampong, highlighted some key initiatives and developments the GMA has undertaken to enhance the living and working conditions on Ghanaian fishing vessels.
And through our collaboration with our Danish partners, as part of the third phase of our strategic sector cooperation on maritime, we have trained 10 instructors from the Regional Maritime University and the Ghana Maritime Authority. The instructors are ready to commence the basic safety and security training course for fishers, as was announced in one of our circulars, with the aim of certifying all fishers by September 2024.
He revealed that the GMA now requires all foreigners serving on board Ghanaian fishing vessels to be issued with flag endorsement certificates to serve as a means to verify their qualifications and experience.
The issuance of these endorsements is based on the execution of Memoranda of Understanding between Ghana and the respective administrations of these foreign nationals. So these MOUs facilitate the mutual recognition of certificates and qualifications, ensuring that those serving on our vessels meet the required international standards.
The National Program Coordinator of the International Labour Organization, Emmanuel Kwame Mensah, said the ILO is committed to decent working environment in the fishing sector in line with the Sustainable Development Goals.
It so happens that there are more than 128,000 fishers who are trapped in forced labor across the world. That means that the industry we are dealing with, fishing, is not exempt from the practice of forced labor, modern slavery, and human trafficking.
All right, so those were happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. We are now going for the word or phrase of the day. And remember, the word or phrase of the day has been fashioned to bring you up to speed with the terminologies and jargons we use in the shipping industry. Today's word is ballast tanks.
Ballast tanks are compartments at the bottom of a ship that are filled with liquids for stability and to make the ship seaworthy.
All right, welcome back. We are zooming into our discussion proper tonight, and tonight our topic revolves around the collaboration between the International Labour Organization, ILO, and the Ghana Maritime Authority, GMA. And the last story you saw tells it all. They are collaborating to ensure that there is improved working and living conditions for, crews on board fishing vessels. And what role should the owners of these vessels play to ensure that, people that work for them work in the most beautiful, conditions and circumstances. And so tonight, that's what we're looking at. We are privileged to have in the studios tonight the man you just saw there in the news item, Mr. Emmanuel Kwame Mensah, who is a National Program Coordinator, 8.7 Accelerator Lab Program, International Labour Organization. He will tell us what the 8.7 Accelerator Lab Program is. And then we also have in the studios Mr. Audu Inusa, who is a Principal Maritime Administration Officer at the Ghana Maritime Authority, GMA. Let me say welcome to you, first of all, Mr. Mensah.
Thank you very much, Ken. It's a
Your
pleasure
first
to be
time on
here.
the show?
Yes.
Great.
It's my first time on this show.
We are happy to have you.
Thank you.
We are happy to have you.
Great.
And Mr. Audu Inusa, you are not a stranger to this particular show. You've been here before. We're glad to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Great.
It's a
Awesome. So tell us, first of all, before we zoom into the discussion proper, tell us about the 8.7 Accelerator Lab program.
Good. So, well, the words are symbolic. 8.7 is referring to target 8.7 in the Sustainable Development Goals. As you know, there are 17 goals. Each goal has a set of targets. Goal 8 is on decent work and economic growth. And International Labour Organization focuses on that. Under Goal 8, there's a target that is aiming at eliminating forced labor, child labor, modern slavery, and human trafficking from all forms of enterprises and work by 2025 and 2030.
Right.
So we have running a program to support countries to achieve this target. And the idea is to accelerate action because COVID and other things reduce the speed at which the goals were being achieved. So now we just don't have to speed up, we have to accelerate.
Right.
And so the name of the program is 8.7 Accelerator Lab. Lab is the short form of laboratory.
Yes.
Testing solutions, making sure that they are scientific enough to bring the sustainable solutions we are hoping for. And the fishing sector is one of the areas that we are applying these principles. Yeah.
Now, 2025 is just around the corner. Are we getting there?
All right.
If you take a look at the pace at which we are going now, because you just made mention of the fact that COVID slowed things down a bit.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right, so we keep in mind that these targets were set in 2015 under different conditions. And so things have changed.
Right.
So we don't want to say that we are not getting there, but we want to say that it's something that we have to keep pushing.
Right.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Before COVID, a lot of things were happening. Nobody ever thought that we would end up wearing masks.
Yeah.
But in less than a year, everybody was wearing masks.
Absolutely.
People would have thought that for you to sensitize citizens across the world to start wearing masks, it would take 10 years, all the reasons. But because of the pressure of the problem, everybody saw sense that we had to do this or our lives would be at risk. Absolutely. So if we have the same mindset so that towards some of these challenges we have, that no, look here, if we give some priority to these things, we can do it as fast as we think is necessary, because we do it under other conditions. So the mindset is critical. So are we getting there in 2025? I say that it's possible. It may not be likely, but we have to keep working at it. There are 4 things we are eliminating. I mentioned child labor, modern slavery, human trafficking, and then forced labor. It is child labor that the target is up to 2025. But for the other 3, we are looking at 2030. And we know that
Can we go over them again? Like, I beg your pardon.
So we are eliminating child labor,
modern trafficking,
modern slavery, human trafficking, and forced labor. But the program I am working on is focusing on forced labor in a particular sector, which is the marine sector. There are other colleagues and other projects that are looking at this other three.
All right, awesome. So tell us briefly about your collaboration with the Ghana Maritime Authority.
Good. So the government of Ghana is doing great work in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. There are setbacks. Recently, we heard the UN chief say that about 12% of the goals have been achieved in Ghana. There's a long way to go. But Goal 8 and Target 8.7 is looking at elimination of forced labor in all sectors. But our collaboration with the GMA is to look at their space, marine.
Right.
Okay, so look at the space of fishing. Okay, what can we do to improve work in that area? And if you know the ILO, you know that we stand for social justice through decent work.
Right.
In other words, we want to make sure that enterprises, areas of work, every kind of job, formal or informal, is decent. And when we talk about decent, it's not just an English word. It's a technical term which means that there must be good jobs. People are earning enough to take care of themselves and meet their family needs. They are not spending more than they are earning from their jobs. Then there's social protection, where there are economic emergencies like we have in many countries now because of inflation and other issues about COVID I've mentioned. I mean, the cost of living is increasing. Inflation is a big issue. So social protection for those who would have difficulties, safety nets. If people lose their jobs, where can they go to? If there are people who are now becoming casual workers because of unsafe employment. So social protection is another part of decent work. Then social dialogue, creating a platform so that employers and employees can dialogue and negotiate how to improve productivity and the well-being of workers. This is not a privilege. It is something that is a fundamental right of workers, and therefore employers should be also engaged in it. And social dialogue makes productivity to increase, so it's good for employers to. Then the fourth leg of decent work, if you like, we call it the fundamental principles and rights at work. And this means that things that are deficits to decent work, like let's say forced labor, human trafficking, issues of poor occupational safety and health, this must be eliminated. But key to this is the right for workers to freedom of association and right to collective bargaining. It's an important part of fundamental principles. So this gamut of interventions that the ILO does in the context of decent work is the package that we are trying to work out with GMA and see how we can apply them in the fishing subsector of the marine space.
Right. Awesome. All right, let me come to Mr. Audu and find out from you what you're doing to ensure a sanitized system where people working on board fishing vessels live and work in the best of conditions.
Okay, so there is this convention that we are currently ratifying. We've initiated the ratification process, the C188 Work in Fishing Convention.
Yeah.
So what the GMA has done is to implement the provisions of the Work in Fishing Convention prior to its ratification and implementation. Yes. So the issues that he mentioned, the overarching objective is to improve living and working conditions on board Ghanaian fishing vessels.
Yes.
Here, emphasis on industrial vessels. So what we have done is to ensure that the provisions of the C188 is being implemented. For instance, to ensure that fishers have a medical certificate before they embark. Fishers undergo some basic safety training. The water served on board is potable. The food served on board is wholesome. Their sleeping place is also habitable. So generally speaking, the vessel is the sleep area, is the work, is the place of work, and at the same time, is the home of the fisher. So what the authority is ensuring is that just as when you close and go home, you have a place of rest. Yes, so the fisher's place of rest should also be habitable. And then your workplace too should also be decent enough. In other words, the conditions on board the vessels should not be less favorable to you, should not be less favorable to the fisher than is favorable to you. So whatever you are benefiting as an ashore worker should also be benefited by the fisher. That is the objective as far as improvement of living and working conditions of fishers are concerned. Yeah.
Have you had occasion where, disgruntled or embittered, fisher folk or crew members come to the GMA to report of unfair treatment, against vessel owners?
Yes, but what happens is that the fishers are hesitant because of issues of blacklisting. But they normally do that through their reps, their unions. And also what the GMA seeks to do with this implementation of C-188 is a dedicated line where fishers can send in anonymous information just to tell us what is happening in the industry. So, for instance, there's no food on board, there's no water on board, we don't necessarily need to know who is making the report. So when the report is made that this vessel or that vessel had this condition on board, then our officers will get on board those vessels to ascertain whether those information are true or not. So these information come in all right, but normally they do so through the union representatives.
While at sea, how easy is it to communicate? If I am at sea and I am disgruntled, I am unhappy about certain things on the vessel, is it easy to just communicate and reach you? How do I go about it?
Yes, per the C-188, there should be, when an incident happens on board the vessel, first of all, you have to complain. There should be an onboard complaint procedure. So if the onboard complaint procedure doesn't work,
onboard complaint procedure means that I am selling myself to my bosses on the vessel.
Yes, so that is the first step. If you are not
and they're going to get angry with me, and anything could happen to me.
Exactly. So if you are not comfortable with that, when the vessel calls at port, you can make a complaint. But even before vessels call at port, seafarers, fishers use mobile phones, and they are able to send us messages even before vessels get to port. So by the time the vessel gets there, we have an officer who will embark the vessel to confirm whether the information that is received is true or not. Yes.
Okay. So let me come to you and find out. I can see you are smiling. Do you have any kind of additions to make?
Yeah, Ken. You pointed it out clearly. The work area, the workspace is not supposed to be an antagonistic field between the employer and the employee.
Yes.
It's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be an area where there can be dialogue. How we are seated here and conversing. I mean, if I owed you and you were asking me of your money, it shouldn't be a fight. It's not wrong. So that's what we want to encourage with this social dialogue idea. And like Inisa mentioned, the conventions of the International Labour Organization, as you would know, they were established through a tripartite process. Governments, employers across the world, and workers across the world. In fact, symbolically, when the ILO's doors were being opened as an international agency on labor issues, there were 3 lockers that should be open at the same time. Governments alone cannot do it. Employers alone cannot do it. Workers alone cannot do it. So social dialogue is something that we have to encourage practically on the ground. That if an employer has a problem with an employee because of the work ethic, the person is not working effectively, there are too many excuses. It must not be done secretly. You must be able to call a meeting and the person would be there, just like, in any fair environment, you share. I know that this can be challenging, but this is where we have to head towards. And in some places, it works out if we are keeping in mind that social justice means that everybody gets a fair share of the productivity we have contributed to. Then for you to get a share, you must contribute to the productivity.
Absolutely.
And if the productivity is being reduced because you as an employer, you are abusing the rights of workers, you are demotivating them.
Right.
Okay, if there are no workers, the job cannot be done. And if there's no employment, workers can also not get into it.
Yes.
So it's a shared responsibility. Absolutely. And this is the culture that increases productivity across the world, which we must bring if it's not there already, or which we must improve in the fishing space. And we are happy that the GMA, like has been very clearly explained, is in the forefront of this, collaborating with other government agencies, the Labor Department, the Fisheries Commission, the employers group, and then the workers group are all involved. So we are heading towards this line, and I think that the progress that we are making is showing that something significant can happen by the time this program is completed.
Awesome. So I just wanted to tell us the position or the assessment of the ILO of Ghana's fisheries sector.
Okay. So I'll do it a number of ways. The first one is what has been mentioned.
Yeah.
Ratifications of convention is a clear show of political will that a government is ready and committed to deal with an issue. Ghana has ratified all the fundamental conventions. There are 8 fundamental conventions that we have. Ghana has ratified all of them. But Ghana is yet to ratify Convention 188. That is the Work in Fishing Convention. Right. This is a sectoral convention. It is focused in a particular sector. So the ILO is encouraging that the provisions in these conventions are very applicable in the space in Ghana and goes a long way to confirm the efforts that are being put in place by partners. But ratification sends a clear signal that the country wants to take head-on measures to deal with it. Sorry. So it's one of the areas where we are able to reflect on a country's commitment. Right. And we are hoping, like has been mentioned, that the ratification will be done as early as possible. We are aware that it has gone through a number of processes, stakeholders, sensitization, which normally takes a long time, has been done as much as it has. I'm aware that Cabinet has looked at it and they have okayed it, and that's a very major step because they have to look at it critically and pros and cons and everything. So if it has gone through that stage, then that's a big progress that has been made. It has entered into Parliament, and the relevant committees might be looking at it. We want to encourage. We know next year is a very tricky year, so we should move as much as possible to do it. This will now mean that we have to put in specific measures of implementation. What we are doing now is fine, but I mean there's a difference between training and the real soccer match.
Right.
Okay, so although preparations are being put in place, there's a tripartite committee that is trying to bring all partners together. There are standards, maritime circulars are being sent around, and instructions. Ratification of the convention will provide a playing field to set out clear mechanisms and measures by which you can be monitored and supported. And the International Labour Organization is very ready to provide the technical support that will be given after the ratification has been done. So how do we measure Ghana's performance in the fisheries sector? Ratification is a big issue.
Right.
The second thing is that I think that there's a significant progress because when we see the communication that GMA has with the stakeholders, is very respectful. They respond. The authority is in control. But control must translate into improvement of the conditions at the place. I mean, occupational safety issues are major issues. The issues of forced labor. You know, there are forced labor indicators. Like I mentioned in the clip you showed, 128,000 fishers across the world are trapped in forced labor. And this is not too healthy. Absolutely. I mean, if there's a case like that in Ghana, we have to deal with it. We see sporadic ones. We are yet to do a broad survey to bring out the numbers. But what is forced labor? If somebody is doing work involuntarily, or if he doesn't do it, there's a threat of punishment. If the person is physically abused or the person's vulnerability is abused because he cannot speak a particular language, maybe he's cheated because he's not educated, his salary is not up to date or something, he's not given a contract or he doesn't read to understand the contract, he's shortchanged in one way or the other. These are things that we hear about them here and there, and we think that measures should be put in place to deal with them. We also think that the collaboration with employers, the Ghana Industrial Trawlers Association, the Ghana Tuna Association, I think that they are also moving well to put in measures to deal with some of these things. The National Union for Seamen, Ports and Allied Workers is doing great work. The Maritime and Dock Workers Union, they are organizing their people. Many of the fishers in Ghana will not maybe pass them as university graduates or high academic intellectual people, but they have the experience. Sorry, today I don't know what has happened to my cough. They have the experience, and they are chased after because they can do the work. We need to improve their skills in terms of formalizing it, and that's a gap that I see GMA working towards together with the partners. And it's not just the GMA, if you permit me. I mean, the Fisheries Commission is also doing great work. I think that they have put measures in place to ensure that before the licenses are renewed, certain standards will be met. I mean, and there's a connection between illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing and this issue of labor standards. And as we try to fill in the labor standards, these things can also be met. From the way I'm speaking, you notice that it's a 50-50 thing, but the ratification of the convention will move the country very much ahead.
Awesome. All right. Let me come to Mr. Audu and find out from you, in all of this, if there's supposed to be, a sanitized system where working conditions and living conditions aboard vessels can be, attained, there's a enormity of responsibility on the owner of the vessel. Can you tell us what role they can play in our quest to achieve this?
So before I come to that, let me mention that with respect to the ratification process, like he mentioned, a number of things have been done. What we are currently awaiting is the parliamentary approval. Once we get the parliamentary approval, what we need to do is then to deposit an instrument of ratification with the ILO, and then we're done with the ratification process. But prior to that, we are also guided by the Ghana Shipping Act, the Labour Act, and also the C-180 that I mentioned. The convention itself, it gives you the leverage that you don't have to wait till it is implemented. It is ratified before you start the implementation. So we have started the implementation process. In August last year, there was a committee to look into the objective of the committee. The task was to make recommendations for the improvement of living and working conditions of fishers. The committee subsequently became a tripartite represented by the workers. That is made up of the Maritime and Dock Workers Union, the National Union of Seamen, Port and Allied Workers, and then the employers represented by the Ghana Tuna Association, and then the Ghana Industrial Trawlers Association. On the part of government, we have the Ghana Maritime Authority, the Labour Department, and also the Fisheries Commission. So this tripartite made some recommendations. Now to the substantive matter, as a fishing vessel owner, if we say a vessel is seaworthy, it goes beyond only the hull and the machinery. It also includes the living and working conditions on board. So as a fishing vessel owner, you are supposed to ensure that the fishing vessel has the necessary equipment and facility to ensure that the living and working conditions on board are as required per the convention. So that is what the authority does. And then the authority has a checklist. A checklist that every fishing vessel owner should have. If you go through the checklist and you meet all the requirements on the checklist, it means that you have met all the requirements. Those are one of the recommendations that were made by the tripartite. And as part of it also, the authority will go ahead and issue a maritime labor compliant certificate. And there are two aspects of this convention. There's one that we didn't mention. Even though our emphasis is on the C-188, there's also the CTA, the Cape Town Agreement.
Okay.
Okay, so the Cape Town Agreement, that is what, that's put emphasis on the hull and machinery. So as we are, you cannot take care of the living and working condition without the hull and the machinery. For instance, the sleep area will have to be taken care of, and normally the Cape Town Agreement does, complemented by the C-188. So in sum, that is what we do. We make sure, first of all, implementing the provisions of the recommendations of the tripartite committee, and then based on that, all the recommendations that are made, whatever is required on board to make the vessel seaworthy, which includes the living and working conditions, the fishing vessel owner is supposed to ensure that all these requirements are met before a vessel sets sail. Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to find out from you, before we proceed, whether there are sanctions that are meted out to intransigent fishing vessel owners.
There is nothing more than having your license revoked. So, like I mentioned, what the committee seeks to do is, you know what, without a maritime labor license, you will not be granted clearance by the Fisheries Commission. So that's what we are going to propose. There are a number of recommendations. What we are doing is a gradual implementation of these recommendations, because we cannot do all at a goal. We also have to take into consideration these are costly. You have to consider these are things that were supposed to be done earlier on that we have delayed in doing. So in our attempt to do that, we also have to consider the plight of the fishing vessel owner. That is why we brought everybody to the table. That they will have to implement this, but on a gradual process. But the most important ones have to be done. For instance, about the health of the fisher. No fisher currently goes to sea without a medical certificate. No, the sleeping area has to be, every fisher should have a mattress. You don't have two people or fishers sleeping on cardboards. And the safety aspect of the fishers, safety training aspect of fishers. Currently, we have an agreement with the Regional Maritime University. All we are doing is awaiting they have requested for some items, and I'm certain by the end of this month we should get them those items. Once these items are in place, then there is nothing that prevents the commencement of the safety training and security training for fishers. So all these, in sum, are supposed to help in the process of ensuring better living and working conditions for fishers.
Safety and security training. One thing that has been outstanding for decades now that we've always talked about is, a research vessel for people to work in, particularly for the Regional Maritime University. It's been a long-standing issue. And now the GMA has agreed to perhaps provide them with, these items that you said they've requested for, to ensure that they have, effective safety and security training for some of these fishers and all that. Are you thinking towards the acquisition of a vessel, research, for purposes of, further training? If I'm not putting you on the spot.
Yes, but that is more for the merchant navy. Yes, and government is in talks with the government of the Republic of Korea. But that is outside the scope of this.
Absolutely, I know.
Yes,
I know.
But when it comes to fishing vessels, that we have an advantage because we have a number of fishing vessels.
Yes.
And then the fishing vessel owners are also, the relationship is a symbiotic one. If you don't provide the opportunity for persons to have training, you will not have the necessary resources, i.e. the fishers that you need.
Yes.
And also resources are also drawn from the canoe, the inshore. Yes. So by the time they come into the fishing vessel, industrial fishing, they know how to mend nets. A number of the basic requirements or competence that they need, they already have them. Right. What the only thing they need is to be put on board industrial vessels to also pick the fuel. And the good news is that you don't have a bare boat or a bare vessel where you are going to recruit a new fishers on board. Yeah. So you already have some on board, and others join, and there is knowledge transfer. So in these ones, we don't have too much challenge there. What probably we may have challenges at the officer level.
Right.
Not at the rating level. Or the officer level, our fishing industry now is manned by foreigners.
Right.
But also with the cabotage LI 2438 coming into the LI 2438 coming in force. One of our objectives is to ensure that Ghanaians in the fishing industrial fishing industry will gradually take up some of these competences, and then they will take over the navigation and operation of these vessels. Yeah.
Is it that we don't have the expertise yet? That's why we have foreigners in this particular space.
What I would say is there is competition in the industry. Okay, so just as you take rational decisions,
yes,
fishers or other people also take rational. So you know that we have an oil and gas sector.
Yes.
So the question is, if I have to choose between fishing and taking a vocation in the oil and gas sector, which one is more rewarding?
Yeah.
Yes, but we still think that we can have others who are also interested in the fishing. But that has been the challenge, because most of the seafarers are interested in the merchant marine, and also, like I mentioned, our industry, the Ghanaian maritime industry now provides opportunity in the oil and gas sector. That is more rewarding. So these challenges are the ones that is inhibiting the development of the industry.
Okay. I'll come back to you. But let me come to Mr. Mensah and find out from you. I know the ILO have standards, for practice in the fishing sector. Can you walk us through some of these standards that you've set?
Yeah, thank you. So the standards of the International Labour Organization are put together by the whole organization, made up of the tripartite I explained, and they are manifested through our conventions. So for the fishing sector, we have the Work in Fishing Convention that spells out the international labor standards in that sector.
Yes.
And there are some provisions in there. For example, it is standardized that the recruitment and placement processes should be done in such a way that the worker who is being recruited doesn't suffer. Right. So nobody has to pay any recruitment fee before the person is recruited to work. That means that measures must be put in place to ensure that if somebody needs a job and is being taken into a job, he doesn't have to pay in some money before he does that. That's an important standard. And that's reflective in the other standard that mentions issues about there must be a personal agreement, contracts, okay? It must be signed. It must be read by the worker, if you like, 1 or 2 days before he even signs and comes up. And I've mentioned to you that many of our fishers that we have, it's not just in Ghana, in other parts of the world.
Right.
In terms of their academic levels, it's not like somebody who has done a PhD, for example. And so sometimes they are taken advantage of, and we think that this is something that we should look at. It's standardized across the world. There must be a fisher's work agreement, which the fisher has read and understood and appended the signature. And then the provisions in the agreement must be met. Okay, all right. Another standard I mentioned from the beginning is that there must be a platform for dialogue between the employer and the employee, so that there is good communication and the rights of the employee, the worker, is not abused. It shouldn't be the case that a fisher should feel threatened when he joins a union. All right, he should feel comfortable that, he's joining a group that can help in collective bargaining and is protected. And the employer must respect this provision. Okay, there must be a crew list, for example. If you go on a vessel, pre-departure preparation should show a crew list of the people who are going on the vessel, and this must be consistent with those who are there. There can be differences here and there due to maybe immediate challenges, but the standard is that the crew list must be there, and it must be a credible point of reference, so that if there's a difficulty while they are at sea, it's a reference point. Right. There must be effective social security for every worker. Okay, whether the worker likes it or not, his social security must be paid.
Absolutely.
So that when he finishes his working period and goes on pension, he has something to fall onto. And like we talk about, it's not just pension issues. I mean, health issues and social protection is important. So these are some of the key standards that we talk about. And allusions have been made to the issue of accommodation and food. It must be adequate. It must not be different from what you enjoy when you are not on the waters. I mean, fishing is a hazardous occupation compared to many others. The ILO has recognized that. Therefore, we must go the second mile to ensure that when fishers are out there, they have what it takes to protect them and keep them healthy and safe. The standard is that the accommodation of the fisher must be comfortable enough to keep him in health while he is at sea. The food he gets must be nutritious enough to give him the energy he needs to do his work and keep his health intact. All right. He must be safe. He must be safe. I mean, human beings are not amphibians. We don't live in water. But if you are working on water and it happens that you must get into the water, I mean, there must be gadgets that will keep you safe and protected.
Absolutely.
The floating, how do you call it? The life jackets must be available, protective clothes. These are key standards that must be met. I mean, in terms of maybe there's the need for repatriation. I mean, the worker should not bear the brunt of the cost of being repatriated. And you know, the fishing area is not just locally registered vessels. There are some fishers who are migrants. They go to other places. There are standards to that. The recruitment process must be safe, and then their rights must be respected. If they have issues to need assistance from external governments, they must be given those. So these are some of the standards you have in the C188, and we are happy to say, like Inusa has mentioned, although it has not yet been ratified in Ghana, the tripartite committee is putting the implementation of some recommendations that is meeting some of these needs. I'm happy to say that the issue of contracts is something that has come up, and the committee has been able to get the partners to issue our fishers with contract. If I understand properly, maybe GMA can confirm it. I mean, from last year, November, there was no fisher who was going to fish on the water that didn't sign a contract. I mean, there are teething problems with it. This is the first time, it's baby steps, but it must be continued. And we want to see that the contracts are standardized, their salaries are well negotiated, and they are happy with it. Hours of rest is another important standard. I mean, they say seaman no overtime. You work until when there's fish, you have to go and catch it, and you don't know where the fish are coming or going. But it must be such that intermittently you have periods of rest as you work, and the standards are very clear. I hear that now, and when they go on the waters, it must not be more than 30 days. Okay, this is also part of the standardization process. So all these things are references that the C188 provides for, and we encourage. I'm very happy that media is very interested in this. We encourage that knowledge should increase so that we can ask important questions, and then employers who also want to increase their productivity. The standards are supposed to help us increase productivity and provide decent work in the space. And this is something the ILO is encouraging. We are working not only in Ghana, in Liberia, in Ivory Coast, in Benin, through the Fisheries Committee for the West and Central Gulf of Guinea. So the work that GMA is doing here, we are hoping will become a good model. We are able to tell people that, look, it can be done. It can be done. Ghana has done it. These other people have done it, so we can do it. Fish don't know borders. So, I mean, if it's good in Ghana, then Togo can also learn. If it's good in Togo, Ghana can also learn, and then we go forward. So the standards are cutting across the world. What's happening here is what happened in the Philippines in terms of maintaining the standards. It's the same thing, and we want to encourage that partners will let this happen in Ghana.
Absolutely. Great. So let me come to Mr. Audu. And find out from you, if you can tell us what the state of the industrial fisheries sector was prior to the creation of the tripartite committee, which you mentioned.
Yes, so those are some of the things that Mr. Mensah mentioned. Okay, so for instance, there was no fishers' work agreement. There was no prior to embarkation. You just get on board and you start working, especially with the trawl vessels. there was no basic safety or security training. Some of the vessels that we got on board, for instance, what I observed was 2 main food are served. It's either rice or gari.
Yeah.
And water, sometimes the water isn't portable. It's inadequate for even household chores. Like I mentioned, the situation on board the vessel should not be less favorable to the fisher. So whatever that you are enjoying, you just ask yourself, what is it that I'm enjoying as an ashore worker? They are the same thing that the fisher is supposed to enjoy.
Yes.
So protective clothing were not there. They just, you see some of them in Chaliwati, they just, whatever they wear, that is what they use on board the vessels. The sleep area was some
so
of
no
them,
personal protective equipment while they're on duty.
Yeah, exactly. The sleep area wasn't that habitable because some of them galvanized, they were sleeping on cardboards, the water wasn't potable, like I mentioned earlier. Some of them, they stay, throughout their time that they stay on board, they don't have their bath.
Wow.
Yes, so these are things that the tripartite looked into. There are merits of them, and then even with the medical chest, a number of these I won't call it a medical chest, but a first aid box, and some of the medications were even written in Chinese that you can't even read.
Yeah.
But the recommendations, so these no medical chest, there is nobody who is even trained in administering of medical first aid or medical care. So these are some of the conditions that we had on board. And then the fishers themselves, like I mentioned, no basic, no security training. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. But so far, since the creation of the committee, things have improved, like you mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, for instance, like the fishers, for the contract like this, we now have the fishers work agreement. The fishers work agreement has to be signed between the fishing vessel owner or his representative and the fisher. And that should be given to the fisher 24 hours prior to.
He's steady.
Yeah, he's steady. He's signed first by the fishing vessel owner and then given to the fisher looks at it. If he's okay with it, if he doesn't understand it, he gives it to somebody who he trusts to be able to explain the content to him. And in the fishers work agreement, a number of the things that Mr. Mensah mentioned in it, for instance, the rest hours, the minimum rest hours should not be less than 10 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, and these rest hours should not be divided into more than 2. And one should not be, and dividing it into more than 2, one shouldn't be less than 6 hours.
Right.
And the objective is that at least the average human being, even if you don't sleep at all, at least you should have at least 6 hours of
sleep,
rest. Yes, sleep. That is why it was done that way. Yeah. And I also mentioned the issue of medical chest. A maritime notice has been issued. Also, if you look at their wages now and what they were taking in the past, the wages has been enhanced. And there is an aspect of it that should be dependent on the catch. And that should be self-regulating. If they make more catch and the price of fish appreciate on the market, then that aspect, the catch bonus should also go up.
Right.
Yeah, so a number of, also with the issue of having the sleep area being tidy, the toilet also should be kept in a clean and a hygienic manner, to have a certificated cook on board, to ensure you don't just ask anybody at all to cook. The recommendation of the tripartite is that whoever is preparing the food should be a certificated cook. If they don't have it, we are ready to assist them. The National Vocational Training Institute, the TVET, they will have to come back if they don't have them. We can organize a training program for them and with TVET so that they will have this training also for their cooks. And also, like I mentioned, online complaint on board. The authority is also, there's also supposed to be a toll-free number where you can reach the authority when there is anything going on board that you think the authority should know. So these are a few that I can mention, that the authority has done.
All right, I'll be coming back to you, and when I want to find out from you, you mentioned the issue of bonus, when there's a bumper catch. I just would find out from you whether there's a fixed salary for these workers, or their salaries are based on how much catch they make as they go along. Yes, so this is I Am Port here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight we're taking a look at how we can ensure improved working conditions, working and living conditions, aboard fishing vessels registered in Ghana for employees. Tonight we have in the studios Mr. Emmanuel Kwame Mensah, who is the National Program Coordinator, 8.7 Accelerator Lab Program of the International Labour Organization, ILO. And also in the studios, Mr. Audu Inusa, who is a Principal Maritime Administration Officer, Ghana Maritime Authority. We are going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue the show. Please stay with us.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really? Okay, I come.
Shut up!
Mame, boss, fill my tank with Super XP Ron 95.
Well up with Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey!
Choose Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Ron 95. Goyle, good energy.
Goyle is good energy. Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah, our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects, and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS. We connect. You thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302-246-319 or 0243-690-492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, welcome back. Tonight we are taking a look at how to ensure improved living and working conditions for, on board Ghanaian fishing vessels. And like I said earlier on, today we are joined in the studios by Mr. Kwame Mensah, who is the National Program Coordinator, 8.7 Accelerator Lab Program, International Labour Organization, ILO, and indeed Mr. Audu Inusa, who is a Principal Maritime Administration Officer at the Ghana Maritime Authority. They are the two gentlemen we are having a discussion with tonight. We're taking a look at the role of the owner of the vessel. And I said I was going to come back to you and find out from you, whether there are fixed salaries for these workers aboard these vessels or on board these vessels, or whether their salaries are, calculated based on the amount of catch they make as they go along.
Yes, so the fishing industry...
Before you continue, let me announce the phone lines. I've been told by the production team that the time is right for us to activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute. And the line, the number to dial is 020-552-8353. 020-552-8353 is right here on your screen. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. Yes?
Yes, so the fishing industry has some peculiarity of its own. So there are certain things that are not fixed. Okay, apart from the basic wage.
Right.
Yes, some of the benefits, basic wage, social security, but the other allowances, they are not that fixed. Yes, so it depends on the share, the catch that is made. But currently, what the industry does is, at the beginning of the year, they decide, okay, what should be the fixed overtime rates, what should be the those terms, chop fish bonus.
Right.
So these ones, they decide on them, and then that would determine what the total wage or pay of the fisher is.
Yes, okay.
But what we are advocating for is that...
What we are advocating for is... Hold it there. Let's go and welcome Richard, who is calling us from Takoradi. And when we return, you continue from where you left off. Yes, Richard, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening.
Yes, sir.
I think I just started watching the program a few minutes ago, but there's this thing that struck me when I once went to Takoradi, secondary fishing harbour to buy fish. And the information per my discussion with the people, it came to the fore that, when you go to the secondary fishing harbour, there are these people who normally work there, and within the value chain, you realize that when they come, the watchmen, those people who offload and all those things, they get their daily bread from there. As well as, sorry to describe these people who are like junkies, and they are part of the chain, those who carry the things there. And for the discussion, it came to the fore that there are people who become a nuisance to the community whenever there is that break period when they are told not to go for the fishing. So within that 1 month, these people don't have any food to eat, and these junkies have to come out to the public, to outside the fishing harbour, to come and get something to eat and steal and do all those things. So my question is, during those periods, I don't know if they have not realized it, but if they have not realized it, fair, I'm bringing it to their attention. But if they've realized it, and even if they don't know, I'm bringing it to their attention, what are they going to do to curtail some of these things? Because it's also something that should be looked at. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard, for your call. You can also call. The number to dial is 020-552-8353 and contribute to the discussion. I don't know whether you got Richard's point. Yes.
I understood the question. I'm not too sure if I have an answer, but I think he's talking about the challenge that happens in terms of livelihoods when the close season is on, and if you like, the Goro boys don't have space and they have to come. What is being done about it?
They wreak a lot of havoc.
The fishing area is for fishers.
Yeah.
I mean, just like the studio is for media people. So if a non-media person enters the studio and has a problem, I mean, he's not praised, or I mean, do you get my point? So I think that the point has to do with making sure that the space for working is for fishers, and that intruders who have a challenge have the least opportunity to enter there. But this is a broader conversation of livelihoods and challenges in terms of close season and other periods like that. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I understand we have another caller from Takrady. Let's go for it. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes.
Okay, so
Stephen,
my name is Stephen.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So I had a submission from Mr. Awudu. I think I've met him a couple of times during the sensitization of the cabotage at the Atlanta Hotel. Yeah, so like I was saying, I had a submission of Mr. Awudu.
Yes.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Stephen.
Yeah, Mr. Awudu made a submission.
Yes.
Concerning the vessel owners. But I think the last time we met at Atlantic Hotel in Takrady,
yes,
I made a reference to him about the welfare of the seafarers. Actually, there is no association binding them together. And the sad aspect of it is they are mandatory and their documents, they need to be registered or renewed. My brother, could you imagine that this thing can be renewed and for a number of years, they don't get a job? But when it elapses and they are going for renewal, the fee is still the same. We've made this appeal to them the last time we met. They said they will give a consideration. As we speak now, I have about 4 employees who we are trying to get them a job. But they still have to go and do the renewal of their documents, of their mandatory. And that is that they've stayed home for like 3 to 4 years. And when you go to the GMA office in Takrady Center, you see a lot of seafarers loitering around, looking for opportunity to be hired. I beg Mr. Awudu and the GMA as a whole, what action plan are they facilitating to keep this menace? Because if I have to pay an amount of money to renew my license for no job, it makes the system so confused. I beg you should take it up. That's my concern. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Is he referring to fishers or seafarers? Unfortunately, that didn't come out well. But if it's with fishers, there are opportunities for fishers in the UK and outside, especially in Europe. So apart from that is why we want to protect our industry here. Okay, what currently is happening is that the UK is considering fishers as skilled workers.
Right.
And therefore, there are certain requirements that you need
to meet
before you can go out and work as a skilled worker.
Yeah.
That is the challenge now, because now you need to sit for the IELTS.
Absolutely.
Yes, you have to go to the British Council, you sit for the IELTS, come to GMA. So if you have your mandatories, if the person has his mandatories, he has experience in fishing, and he has the IELTS certificates, I think that there are opportunities for them. That is if he's referring to fishers.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Otherwise, for the merchant, the GMA, what the GMA is currently doing is, GMA signs memorandum of understanding with fishing ship source countries. Yeah. And what happens is that once this memorandum of understanding is signed, we have these seafarer recruitment and placement service providers. So the seafarer recruitment and placement service providers are supposed to link up with their colleagues in the ship source countries to provide opportunities. Currently, we have about 37 countries that we've signed an MOU with. include UK, it includes Denmark, it includes Germany. Those ones that we are looking forward to sign, even recently, just I think this month, we initiated a process with Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So we are expanding the scope, and we'll edge one other aspect of it is also, even though it's not within this scope, since he has brought it up, I think that I should speak to it. The GMA is initiating the Go to Sea campaign. What we want is the seafarer recruitment and placement service providers.
Right.
We are going to run a program, meet the ship owners in the ship source countries. They can come along with us. We'll organize a meeting, and then they meet them, and then interact with them.
Right.
Yeah, so that is what we are planning. That is if he's talking about the merchant navy. That is the program that we have, the Go to Sea campaign. Yeah.
Okay. There are some messages here. Let me take them. This one says, hi, I'm Port. I'm curious, does Ghana's fisheries sector have a minimum wage regime in place? If yes, can our honorable guest from the ILO expatiate on that? This one is from Miriam in Takrade.
I'm not too sure if there's a minimum wage for the Ghana fishing sector. I know that there's a general minimum wage for the country. Okay, so in that sense, nobody should be paid below the minimum wage in any sector. In certain regimes, there are minimum wage, particularly for the fishing sector. I'm not too sure it is the case in Ghana.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, this one's, yes, you want to, yeah.
You know, what the tripartite did was, based on the levels of the fishes, we came out with a wage scale. Yes. So currently, one of the challenges that we want to deal with, because we realize that it's affecting the social security. If you take the wage is around about 700 Ghana cedis.
Right.
But when the other allowances come, the minimum amount that a fisher is receiving is about 2,300 Ghana cedis.
Okay.
So what we still want to engage, Mr. Mensah knows about it. We want to come out with a situation where we can have the minimum wage increased.
Okay.
So that some of the allowances will go into it such that the SNET, the social security will increase. Hitherto, especially within the trawl sector, there was no SNET.
Right.
But the tripartite recommendations made it necessary that now every fisher who is engaged should be paid SNET.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. This one says, hello, I am Port. Very good discussion there. May I know which roles ILO and GMA are playing to improve the number of high-end officers who have on board, we have on board our fishing vessels. From what I remember, we do not have enough captains and engineers to man our vessels. That is a labor issue, I believe. This one is from Akwete in Tema.
Yes, so that was, I mentioned that earlier that, we have two main groups of seafarers or fishers.
Yes.
We have the ratings and we have the officers.
Yes.
Okay. So currently there is no Ghanaian fisher on board. So that's what we are saying, that gradually under the cabotage regulation, there should be a system where these fishing vessel owners will ensure that these positions, there are Ghanaians who will take up such position, and then in future, probably they will be able to take over the industry.
Right.
Yes, so it is required under the cabotage that fishing vessel owners should do that. 50% of all officers, especially in operational positions, are supposed to be Ghanaians under the cabotage regulation.
Right. Yeah. Abu in Akusumbo says, recently we had another case of a boat accident on the Adan River where some people drowned. This takes the toll of boat accident-related deaths in the past 6 months to a worrying number. How much is GMA looking into such issue? And what does the organization intend to do to help safety across our water bodies So these accidents don't happen at the frequency they do.
Okay, so this information should have been taken by our technical division, but let me provide some information.
Right.
Our technical division have started going to the boat centers and are conducting trainings and also marking load lines on these boats to ensure that they don't overload them. But you see, what happens is they are satellite communities. Some of these communities are very small.
Right.
And even when you are, when there are issues of surveillance of these waters, once the patrol boat passes these areas and you don't see them, then they have their way. So that is one of the challenges that we have, because these boats normally are very small and they don't hit to warnings and safety regulations. So like I mentioned, our technical division since last month have embarked on a number of sensitization at the boat centers, at Botuase, Yeji, Dambai, and then, some of...
Captain Inusa and his team?
Yes, Captain Inusa and his team.
Do we have a caller? I understand we have a call. Hello, good evening. Hello? Okay, I understand he's off. All right. So let me come to Mr. Mensah and find out from you, what in all of this, what the role of the ship owner should be, the role of the vessel owner.
Good. So the vessel owner is sort of the CEO of the enterprise.
Yes.
Okay. So the buck stops with him. He must make sure that the vessel is safe. He must make sure that the standards, the labor standards are met, the contracts are clear. And I wanted to mention that, I mean, it's important for constant inspection and monitoring because people don't do what you expect all the time. They do what you inspect.
Absolutely.
So monitoring is a key area that we have to continue to make sure that it's met. And it would be very good if the boat owners, through their association, like the Ghana Industrial Trawlers Association or the Ghana Tuna Association, if they have a self-regulating measure.
Yes.
Okay, that will be helpful, so that it is like writing a mock in your school. You write the mock before you go and write the main external exam. If the mock is properly done, the external exam is easier. So the role of the ship owners, the operators, should make sure that the international standards are met. We are ready, and we have been doing this with them. We tell them that we are ready to give you more knowledge, more skills, more understanding, explaining what these standards are, how you can achieve them, how that even some of them are closer to you than you think, and what measures you can do to beef up your knowledge is power. So they need to learn more. We'll be happy to see every fisheries enterprise or boat owner or a vessel or a fishing company have a policy on forced labor in marine. I mean, because you have done training on that. What is your policy regarding international labor standards vis-a-vis Convention 188? I mean, what's your policy of recruitment? What's your policy of safe manning, crew list, these things? And like we mentioned, education is critical. Keep on training your people. We know that the fishers change vessel many times. They don't stay here for a long time. But if you have an information system, you get a pool of fishers, and they are all aware of this, and the standards keep on helping the industry to grow. We think that fishing is business. It's not just a commercial activity.
Absolutely.
It's business that should grow, and it is business that should help the fisher to also grow in terms of having an employment that you can depend on.
Absolutely.
I mean, even after your work age is over, your pension and stuff. And maybe let me mention this key thing. One of the major roles is to make sure that there's a platform for conversation between the fisher and then the employer.
Absolutely.
I mean, fishers should not feel threatened, I mentioned this, to join a union. Okay, so there must be space for conversation, and everybody, there must be transparency, and we must live up to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so I'll give you the last word just in 1 minute, and that has to do with this issue of mutual recognition of certificates. If you can break it down just in 1 minute, and then we wrap up.
Okay,
yes.
so Ghana signs MOUs with other countries that recognize their certificate of competency. So we recognize each other's certificate of competence after going through certain audits. So what is happening is that all the foreigners currently on our fishing vessels, those countries would have to sign an MOU with us to ensure that it's not just signing of the MOU, but for also to ensure that these people have gone through the necessary training and they are competent enough to man the Ghanaian registered vessels. So mutual recognition of certificates simply means that it's under Regulation 1/10 of the STCW Convention that countries have come together to recognize each other's certificates and have satisfied themselves that those countries, for persons who hold certificates of these countries, are competent enough to work on each other's vessels.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So that was Mr. Audu Inusa, who is Principal Maritime Administration Officer at the Ghana Maritime Authority. He just ended his remarks there. And then we also have Mr. Emmanuel Kwame Mensah, who is the National Program Coordinator, 8.7 Accelerator Lab Program of the International Labour Organization, also in the studios. And remember, we've been discussing how to ensure improved working and living conditions on board fishing vessels that are registered here in Ghana. That's how we draw the curtain on tonight's edition of Eye on Port here on Metropolitan Television. We say a big thanks to our sponsors: Ghana Revenue Authority, GOIL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. Remember, the show is proudly powered by the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, GPHA. We invite you to watch the abridged version of the show on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. on Ghana Television. My name is Kennedy Mona. God willing, next week we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of the program. We invite you to keep watching the rest of our programs here and have a super week ahead. Good evening and thanks for choosing us.